Everybody, welcome to Visual Communication and Media. My name is Adam Rozeski. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Thought I'd let everybody know I finished all the grades up last night. Should be caught up on week 2. I will get a hold and start knocking out the makeup grades, and if people have turned in anything late from week 1 and week 2 this weekend. So I should have everything caught up by then. Other than that, let's get into it. Let's get started, and let's talk about what we're going to be focusing on. So we're at the second half of semiotics, right? And we're finishing symbols, signs, icons, and how they matter and how those visuals tie to that experience in a very simplistic view or in a much more culturally considered view in more ways than one. Now, logos are really important, and this is going to tie directly into your assignment this week because logos are like symbols, but they're symbols of a company, and they're the identification of a brand and the products that exist within logos. And this will really help you out with your assignment this week because we're going to analyze logos and visuals and how they matter to companies in more ways than one. So let's get into it. Let's get started on their logos and see how they... Now, logos are a visual representation of the product, company, and experience. They express things in more ways than one to show what the company or product has to offer. For example, they have to directly correlate to that experience. Target, using them as an example. Target's like the place. That's why they use a bullseye, because they want to show you this is the Target where you can find anything that you want and anything that you need right out the gate. Same thing with Nike, where they use the Greek athleticism symbol to showcase, because they do sportswear and sporting equipment. Now, logos need to be simple and easy to understand, and they have to consider that font style and format must always be looked at in order to make sure that they're including cultural elements. You need to translate in size as well. So if it fits on, say, an Apple Watch, it's got to fit on a billboard that's the size of like 100 feet long and everything. No matter where it's positioned is where it makes sense in more ways than one, and that's what matters. Now, there's different types of logos. There's 7 classifications, to be honest. So there's the abstract mark. These are colors and elements that matter to the company themselves. For example, Pepsi. Pepsi has always utilized red, white, and blue and the swoosh symbol for a lot of their letter headings and all those areas in the earlier days, and so they created it as their logo. And even though it doesn't represent anything in general, or represents that company because it's something that they've used over time. Now, mascot logos, they're pretty simple. They have the mascot or the some type of character that's representing the company as well. For example, the Colonel from KFC. That's a big one for Kentucky Fried Chicken. They use the Colonel as their main identification point all the time, and they're utilized with that. Now, combination marks are a little bit different. Combination marks they combine one or two more methods in more ways than one. And we'll get back to the combination mark in a minute. But you'll see how they're utilized in a lot of different aspects. Now, emblem logos are a lot more traditional. They're meant to showcase not high society in a way, but a much more an organization, a school, a government, some type of really sometimes an organization that's had a lot of longevity. And not only that they have a lot of traditionalistic methods as well. For example, Harvard uses a very old school family style emblem with the reef with the words Harvard underneath it. They have a shield with the 3 books that say Veritas, and Veritas is the Latin word for truth. And Harvard has been always considered that the land of truth, and this is where you can find any type of knowledge. That's why they use this logo to express that. Now, the bottom 3 are pretty simplistic in their own ways. For example, Carson, letter marks. Letter marks are acronyms that stand for a bigger word. For example, National Administration Space Association, that stands for NASA. Obviously, you can't just put that gigantic 4 words together into a logo. That's kind of hard to do. So they broke it down into an acronym, and then they just used the letter marks for the abbreviation for the logo NASA. Now, there's also a pictorial mark. Pictorial marks are just the image of what the product or experience is, much like the black apple with the bite in it to showcase Apple computers. And then finally, we have the word mark. Unlike a letter mark where everything's abbreviated, the word mark is just the product or the experience just as the word, or the company as the word itself. For example, Google, 6 letters, super simple, and you can easily make that into a word mark very simplistically. Now, combination marks, let's get back to that. Combine two or more different methods. For example, Burger King is a good example because they use the abstract concept to create the burger using the buns and using the word Burger King as the meat itself. But they also use a word mark in the same way too, where they express Burger King and it's written out completely in that. So combination marks use two or more of the other six in order to combine what they want out of it in more ways than one. But this should help you out in your assignment this week and give you a little bit of insight as to what we're looking for and identifying the visuals to really make a logo stand out. You're going to go into more detail about it, especially with the symbolism, the color, and the font that's used through it. But I want you to see, just from a basic understanding, how the visuals are built to represent that product, company, or experience. Other than that, that's all I got. Keep in mind, you do have your reply for your discussion due by the end of the night tonight, and then your live lectures and your written assignments by Sunday. Keep in mind, live lectures are only able to be turned in by the end of the night Sunday night because they're tied to your attendance. So if they're late, they're zero right off the bat unless there's something that's happening. So please keep in contact with me. That would be great. I'll put up the announcements tomorrow for the live lectures. Other than that, that's all I got. So hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy. Take it easy. Be safe. And I'll see y'all later for lecture on Monday. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.